Lena stood at the edge of the golden hall, her hands shaking just a little. She adjusted the scarf around her neck and looked inside. The light blessing was about to begin. Bright orbs floated near the high glass ceiling, glowing softly like stars. White flowers lined the stage, and a slow melody played in the background, welcoming guests to the sacred ceremony. This was supposed to be her daughter's special day. Mira, her tiny little girl, was being blessed today in the tradition of New Terra 3. It was a peaceful colony, orbiting twin suns known for its beauty and its customs. The light blessing was one of the most important traditions. A child would be placed under the glow of the star dome and given a name in front of family, friends, and respected guests. Lena had dreamed about this moment for years. She had imagined standing next to her baby, holding her close, and smiling as everyone clapped and cheered. But now, standing near the doorway, she realized the dream was no longer hers. It had been taken. The Dorans had taken everything. Lena had once worked as a translator in the diplomatic sector. That's how she met Terran Doran. At first, he had been kind. They fell in love quietly, away from public eyes. She had no interest in his wealth or his family's power. But when she became pregnant with Myra, everything changed. Taron became distant. His family, cold and proud, decided Lena was not suitable. They said it nicely at first. Then they made her feel like she was invisible. In the end, they offered her a place far away from their circle, a silent corner, a forgotten name. She chose peace. From Myra. But now, even here on her own daughter's big day, she felt like a stranger. Name, please? A polite young man in a silver uniform asked her at the entry gate. Lena, she replied, softly. The man looked at his datapad, paused, then nodded. Guest row D, far right. She gave a weak smile and walked down the long glowing aisle. She could see the front seats wide, padded chairs covered in golden cloth. The Dorans were already there, dressed in shining white robes. Terran sat in the center, next to his mother and father. None of them looked back. None of them noticed her. Lena found her seat in the very last row. It was small, near a cooling vent, far from the stage. She sat down quietly and folded her hands. Around her, people whispered and took photos. No one spoke to her. The ceremony began. A soft voice came through the dome's speakers. We welcome the child Mira Doran to the light. Lena sat up straighter. Mira was brought in by a nanny dressed in white. She looked so small and sweet, wrapped in a sky blue cloth. Her dark hair curled above her forehead, and her eyes searched the crowd curiously. Lena's heart beat faster. That was her baby, her little star. But when the speaker said, presented by the House of Doran, Lena felt her heart sink. No one mentioned her. No one said daughter of Lena. She looked around. A few guests looked confused. A few glanced at her. But no one said anything. When the time came for the family to give blessings, Terran stood and spoke about the future of the Doran name and the honor of the child. Then his mother stepped forward and placed a crystal pendant on Mira's blanket. Lena stood up slowly. Her legs trembled. She took a deep breath and started to walk toward the front. She wasn't going to cause a scene. She just wanted to say a few words, to bless her daughter, to speak from her heart. But before she could take 5 steps, a tall man in a white robe blocked her path. Ma'am, he said firmly, please return to your seat. The ceremony is reserved for official family only. I'm her mother, Lena whispered, tears starting to form. I understand, he said. But these are the instructions. Lena looked past him. Terran saw her now. Their eyes met, but he didn't say anything. He looked away. Her hands fell to her sides. She turned around and walked slowly back to her seat. Around her, whispers grew louder. Some people looked away. Some stared. She sat back down, trying not to cry. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. Lights, music, speeches. None of it mattered anymore. When it ended, the guests moved to the garden for a reception. Lena stood up and quietly slipped toward the exit. She didn't want to face anyone. She didn't want to be seen crying. Outside, the dome's artificial sky had begun to dim, casting a soft evening light on the path. She walked alone. Then, from the corner of her eye, she noticed a dark-colored hovercar slow down near the walkway. It was sleek and elegant, with silver lines across its sides. The door slid open with a soft hiss. A man stepped out. He looked around 40, with short dark hair and calm, clear eyes. He wore a long coat, simple but clearly expensive. His face was kind, curious. "You dropped this," he said, holding out a small white ribbon, one that had fallen from her scarf. Lena blinked in surprise. "Oh, thank you." The man paused. "You were at the ceremony?" She nodded. "Yes, I was too," he said quietly. "I saw what happened." Lena didn't know what to say. "My name is Bran," he said. Bran Keller. The name rang in her ears. Bran Keller, one of the wealthiest men in the colonies. Owner of Keller Drives, builder of the fastest ships in the galaxy. "I don't mean to intrude," he added gently, "but no one should be treated like that, especially not a mother." Lena looked at him, unsure what to say. He gave a small smile. "Can I offer you a ride? No pressure. Just ... maybe some tea. You look like someone who deserves a little kindness." She hesitated. Then she nodded and stepped into the car. The inside of Bran's hovercar was warm and quiet. The seats were soft, made of smooth material that glowed faintly in the corners. A gentle hum filled the space, the sound of advanced engines working far beneath the floor. Lena sat silently, hands resting in her lap. The moment still felt unreal. Just minutes ago, she was being turned away from her daughter's light blessing. Now she was sitting next to one of the most powerful people in the system. Bran Keller didn't speak right. Away. He looked ahead as the car began to rise slowly, heading toward the upper levels of the dome. The view outside showed tall towers glowing in shades of silver and blue. Skybirds flew past like tiny glowing stars. Finally, he turned to her and said gently, "Do you want to talk about it?" Lena hesitated. Then she shook her head. "There's nothing to say, it's over now." Bran gave a quiet smile. "It's not over just because someone else says so." Lena looked out the window. Her voice was soft. "I didn't want to cause trouble. I only wanted to be part of her moment. Just ... stand by her side. You're her mother," Bran said. "You should have been at the center." Lena gave a small, sad laugh. "Not when the Dorans decide otherwise. To them, I'm just someone who doesn't belong." The car slowed. As it approached the garden dome high above the city, a platform extended like a floating circle surrounded by trees, flowers, and gentle waterfalls. The car docked with a soft click, and the doors opened. Bran stepped out first. "Please, just a cup of tea. Then, if you want to leave, I'll take you wherever you want." Lena nodded slowly and followed him. The garden was peaceful. Artificial sun shone down, warm and golden. Birds sang. A small round table stood near the center, already set with a silver teapot, 2 cups, and small fruit biscuits. Bran poured the tea without saying anything and handed Lena a cup. She held it in both hands, letting the warmth soak into her fingers. "Do you mind if I ask something personal?" he said. "You already saw the most personal part of my life," she replied softly. "Go ahead." Bran leaned forward. "Why didn't you speak up sooner, challenge them?" Lena looked down. "Because I didn't want Mira to be caught in a fight. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought Terran would be happy. At first, he was, but when his parents heard, everything changed. They told him I wasn't a good match, that my background didn't fit their family line." Bran frowned. "Your background?" "My parents were farmers from Earth. I got here through study programs. I worked hard." learned languages, passed exams, moved up through peaceful missions. But none of that mattered to the Dorans. Bran nodded slowly. And Terran? He chose silence, Lena said. He didn't fight. I think he was afraid of losing his place in their family, in their power. Bran took a slow sip of tea. And you gave up? No, Lena said firmly. I didn't give up. I chose a path that was quieter, I thought. Maybe love would still find a way to grow around it. There was a long pause. The garden wind blew gently through the trees. A pair of doves flew past the glass dome above. I'm sorry, Bran said after a while. You deserved better. Lena smiled faintly. Thank you. But I don't want pity. I just wanted my child to have peace. Bran nodded again. Peace is good, but truth is better. Lena looked at him. Why are you helping me? Bran thought for a moment. Because I've seen people like you before. People who stay quiet so others can shine. But sometimes, the quiet ones are the strongest. And sometimes, all it takes is one person to remind the world what matters. Lena blinked. You hardly know me, he smiled. I don't need to know everything to recognize courage. She felt something shift inside her, like a small flame lit in a cold room. She had been walking in silence for so long that she had forgotten what kindness from a stranger felt like. They talked for another hour. Bran didn't ask anything else about the Dorans. Instead, he asked about Mira, what she liked, how old she was, what stories she enjoyed. She laughs when I sing badly, Lena said with a real smile. She loves stars. Every night, I show her pictures from the outer systems. I tell her she go there one day. She will, Bran said. As the artificial sky darkened into simulated night, tiny stars appeared above the dome. Lena stood. I should go. It's been a long day. Bran walked with her back to the hovercar. Before she stepped inside, he said quietly, Would you allow me to do something? Not to fight the Dorans. Not for revenge, just ... Something to remind Mira where she came from. Lena looked at him, unsure. What do you mean? Bran's eyes were calm. Let me give her a second light blessing, a real one. One where her mother stands by her side. Lena stared at him, speechless. I'll take care of everything, he added. You just need to say yes. For a moment, Lena said nothing. Then, slowly, with a breath that felt like freedom, she nodded. And in that moment, the stars above seemed to shine just a little brighter. The city dome shimmered in the soft light of early morning. New Terra 3 was calm. Skytubes glowed as aircars moved silently through them. Tall buildings reflected golden light, and trees swayed gently under the clear artificial sky. Lena sat at her small kitchen table, staring at the window. Her fingers curled around a cup of warm tea. But her mind was far away. It had been 2 days since she met Bran Keller, the quiet, thoughtful man who had stood by her when no one else did. A stranger who saw her pain and didn't turn away. And now she didn't know what to think. He had offered something she never expected. A second light blessing, a real one. One where she could stand proudly beside her daughter, without anyone pushing her away. But was that even possible? Her tiny apartment was quiet. Mira was sleeping in her crib nearby. A gentle tune played from the wall speaker, a lullaby from Earth, soft and old. Lena listened and sighed. Part of her wanted to believe Bran could change things. But another part still felt afraid. She picked up a small photo frame from the table. It showed her holding Mira as a newborn. She was smiling, tired but full of love. That day felt like a lifetime ago. A soft sound broke her thoughts. It came from outside her window. A hum, deep, smooth, and too quiet to be an ordinary car. Lena stood and looked outside. Below her small apartment tower, a sleek black hovercar hovered near the entrance. It didn't belong to anyone from the neighborhood. It was too clean, too polished, and too expensive. The side door slid open, and Bran stepped out. Lena blinked. He looked up at her window and smiled slightly, as if he knew she was watching. She rushed to the door. Downstairs, she met him just outside the lobby. He was wearing a long dark coat, simple but neat. In his hand, he held a small silver box. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said politely. Lena shook her head, still surprised. "I didn't expect you to come. I thought it might help to see what I've been working on," he said. Then, he offered the box, a small gift. She opened it carefully. Inside was a glowing crystal, shaped like a star, with Myra's name engraved in the center. "For her blessing," Brand said. "I had it made yesterday." Lena stared at it. "It's beautiful," Brand nodded. "I meant what I said. I want to give her a second ceremony. One that truly honors her, and you." She looked at him closely. "Why are you really doing this?" He paused, then answered honestly. "Because I have all the money in the world. But that doesn't mean anything if I can't use it to stand up for someone who is pushed down. You deserve to be seen." "So does she." Lena looked down. "What about the Dorans?" "If they find out, they already know," Brand said calmly. Lena's eyes widened. "I sent them a formal message." He continued. "Told them Myra's second blessing will be public, open to all, and I invited them." Lena's voice trembled. "Why would you do that?" "Because they had their chance to show kindness. Now the world will see who really deserves respect." She felt a strange mix of fear and strength rise inside her. Brand gently added, "I'm not asking you to fight them. I'm asking you to stand beside your daughter. I'll take care of the rest." Lena looked at the star crystal again. Then she nodded slowly. "I'll do it." That evening, Brand took her to the new location he had chosen, an old community dome in the heart of the city, once used for science exhibitions. It was tall, round, and forgotten by many. But to Brand, it was perfect. When they entered, Lena saw workers moving quietly, setting up lights, banners, and flowers. A group of musicians tuned their instruments in the corner. The smell of fresh paint mixed with the soft scent of real earth roses. Brand turned to her. "I bought this place yesterday. It'll be used for learning events and peaceful gatherings after this. But for now, it's Myra's." She couldn't speak. Her heart was full. He pointed to the stage at the center. "You'll stand there, with her in your arms, and everyone will know." Lena looked at him. "Thank you doesn't feel like enough." He smiled. "You don't have to thank me, just stand tall." The next few days passed quickly. Word of the upcoming blessing spread across the city. The name Brand Keller was enough to draw attention. But once people learned the story about the woman who had been pushed aside during her own daughter's sacred ceremony, interest grew stronger. Some people supported her openly. They sent kind messages and offered to help. Artists painted posters with stars and a child's name, Myra of the Light. Others stayed quiet, unsure. The Dorans, after receiving the invitation, gave no public response. But rumors said they were furious. Some even claimed they tried to stop the event through quiet legal threats. Brand ignored them all. Instead, he focused on the final details, the lighting, the music, the speech order, and he made sure Lena had everything she needed. He even arranged a beautiful dress for her, simple and white, with soft blue threads matching Myra's blanket. Lena, though nervous, began to feel something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. On the night before the blessing, she stood at the edge of the stage, holding Myra, looking at the lights being tested above. "Do you think she'll understand this one day?" she asked Brand. He stood beside her. "I think she'll remember how her mother didn't give up," Lena smiled. Myra gurgled and grabbed a strand of her hair. Brand added softly, "Tomorrow you won't be alone." And for the first time in a long time, she truly believed it. The morning of the second light blessing arrived with a gentle golden glow. The city of New Terra 3 seemed different today, more peaceful, more awake. The people inside the great dome moved with quiet purpose, as if they knew something special was about to happen. News had spread far and wide. A new ceremony was being held for a child named Mira, hosted by Bran Keller himself. But to Lena, it was not about the fame or attention. It was about finally being seen. She stood in front of the mirror, dressed in a flowing white gown stitched with silver stars. Her hair was tied back simply, a small flower tucked behind one ear. Her heart beat faster than usual, but not from fear this time. It was from something deeper. Pride, love, a little bit of hope. Mira lay in a soft white cradle near the door, wrapped in a fresh blue cloth. Her eyes sparkled under the soft light, full of curiosity and innocence. Lena bent down and kissed her daughter's forehead. "Today is for you," she whispered, "and for us." A quiet knock came at the door. Bran stood outside, dressed in a dark suit with a soft blue sash that matched Mira's wrap. In his hand he held a small sun-shaped pin. "May I?" he asked kindly. Lena nodded, and he gently pinned the symbol on her dress, just over her heart. "It's an old earth sign," he explained. "It means light after darkness," she smiled. "It's beautiful." Bran looked at Mira. "She's ready." Lena looked around her small apartment for the last time that day. It wasn't much, but it had been her world. A place of quiet, strength. She picked up Mira carefully and followed Bran out the door. Outside, a simple hovercar waited. No luxury, no press. Just a quiet ride to a place where something real would happen. When they arrived at the community dome, Lena's breath caught in her throat. The once forgotten place had been transformed. Lights glowed softly across the ceiling, forming constellations from Earth's night sky. Flowers lined the aisles. Floating orbs hovered above, projecting gentle beams of color onto the stage. A soft melody played in the air, one that sounded both ancient and new. People had already begun to arrive. Not rich people, not powerful people, ordinary ones, families, students, workers, even older citizens who had heard about the story from local channels. They all came. Some carried flowers. Some brought toys or books for Mira. Some simply came to witness what they called the real light blessing. Bran led Lena to a small resting area behind the stage. "Are you nervous?" he asked gently. "Yes," she said honestly, "but I'm also ready." He nodded. "You've already done the hardest part." "You stood back up." She looked at him, her eyes full of thanks. "You've done so much. I don't know how to repay you." Bran shook his head. "You don't need to repay me. I just want to help make something right." Then he stepped away to speak with the organizers, leaving Lena alone with Mira for a few quiet moments. Lena held her daughter close, gently rocking her. "One day," she whispered, "you'll understand why today matters." Soon, the ceremony began. The lights dimmed slightly as soft music filled the dome. The floating orbs cast gentle light across the room. The crowd quieted. A host walked to the stage and began to speak. "Today, we gather not to divide but to honor. We welcome a child of light, not for her name or family status, but for the love that brought her into this world." Lena stood just behind the curtain, heart racing. Mira stirred in her arms but remained calm, sensing her mother's warmth. "And now," the host continued, "we call forward Lena and her daughter Mira." The curtain lifted. A hush fell over the room. Lena stepped forward slowly, each footstep full of meaning. She carried Mira in her arms, head held high. As she walked to the center of the stage, lights above her glowed like stars. The crowd watched. In silence, some smiling, some with tears in their eyes. Bran stood to one side, watching quietly. His eyes never left Lena. At the center of the stage, she turned to face the audience. A small microphone hovered near her face, but she didn't need it. Her voice, though soft, was strong. "My name is Lena," she began. "And this is my daughter, Mira." She looked down at her child, then back at the crowd. "I gave birth to her with love. I raised her with care. I stood in the shadows so others could claim her light. But today, I step forward. Not to take anything from anyone, but to give her what she truly deserves. People in the crowd nodded. Some clapped softly. She is not a symbol of a rich family. She is not a prize. She is a child, a soul, a light of her own. And today, I stand here not to speak for her, but to show her that her mother never stopped loving her. The room was still. Emotion filled the air. I thank all of you for coming, Lena said. And I thank the person who made this possible. A stranger who showed me that sometimes kindness comes from where you least expect it. She looked toward Bran, who nodded quietly. Then she lifted Mira toward the sky dome above, where the stars shined. I bless you, my daughter, she said. May you grow free, may you shine bright, and may no one ever tell you where you belong. A soft wind swept across the dome, part of the climate system, but it felt magical. The light grew warmer, bathing mother and child in a golden glow. The crowd stood and clapped slowly at first, then louder, stronger, filled with respect. Lena smiled. Tears in her eyes. Mira gurgled happily. And Bran, standing off to the side, smiled too. Outside the dome, reporters gathered, drones hovered, and news channels waited for statements. But inside, Lena wasn't thinking about them. She was thinking about her daughter. About courage. About standing up, even when no one else clapped for you. She had found her voice again, and it had come from a gentle offer that turned into something far more powerful. The echoes of clapping still rang in Lena's ears. Long after the crowd had left, the ceremony had ended, but it felt like something new had just begun. She stood in the center of the dome, holding Mira close. A few children ran through the aisles, laughing. Some guests stayed behind to thank her. Others just nodded quietly, their smiles filled with respect. Lena looked up at the glowing lights in the ceiling dome. They still shone like stars, a perfect sky inside a glass world. Mira slept peacefully against her shoulder, unaware of how big this day was. Bran walked up beside her, hands in his coat pockets. You did it, he said softly. Lena looked at him. No, we did it, Bran smiled. You gave her the blessing. I only gave her the place. Lena shook her head. You gave us more than that. You gave us a voice. Before Bran could reply, the sound of news drones buzzed softly outside. Reporters waited beyond the dome doors, sending messages to every corner of Mu Terra 3. And within hours, those messages traveled across all the colonies. By nightfall, social channels across the planet were full of messages. Some praised Lena for her strength. People wrote about the speech she gave, the way she lifted Mira toward the dome light, the quiet pride in her voice. Others talked about Bran Keller, how he used his power not for politics or business, but to give one mother a moment of truth. Stories spread far beyond just New Terra 3. From Earth to outer stations, people shared clips of the ceremony. They called it the real light blessing. Some even drew artwork of Lena holding Mira under the stars. But not everyone was happy. Inside a high tower on the northern ridge of the city, the Doran family gathered in silence. Taron stood by the tall glass window, hands behind his back. His father sat in a large chair, his face cold. His mother read the newsfeed on a tablet, eyes sharp. This is a mess, she said, breaking the silence. A public embarrassment. Taron said nothing. Everyone's watching, the father added. And now they think she is the symbol of family honor? She's the child's mother, Taron replied quietly. His mother looked up sharply. You let her walk away. You allowed this to happen. Taron turned around. What was I supposed to do? Fight her in public? In front of the whole planet? You could have stopped the second ceremony, the father said. You could have taken legal steps. It's too late now, the mother snapped. The story is out. The people have chosen her side. Taron looked at the glowing screen on the wall. A news anchor showed the moment Lena raised Mira into the light. His jaw tightened. He had never seen Lena that strong before. He had always remembered her as soft-spoken, gentle. But now she was something else. And deep down, he felt something he didn't want to admit. Regret. The next day, Lena returned to her apartment. She placed the star-shaped crystal on a small shelf next to Mira's toys. The pendant from the first ceremony given by the Dorans was still in a drawer. She looked at it for a long time, then quietly closed the drawer again. Mira cooed and reached for the crystal, her tiny fingers waving in the air. "You like that one better?" Lena smiled. "Me too." Just then, her device buzzed. A message flashed on the screen. From House of Doran subject, meeting request. Lena stared at the screen. She hesitated, then opened the message. "You are invited to a formal meeting to discuss the public event held under the name of Mira Doran. This is an official matter. Please respond with your availability." She closed the message slowly. A part of her wanted to ignore it. Another part knew she had to face them eventually. She picked up her device and called Bran. He answered quickly. "Lena, they want to meet," she said. Bran was silent for a moment. "Do you want to?" "I don't know," he replied calmly. "Then don't go alone." 2 days later, Lena and Bran stood in the large hall of the Doran estate. The room was tall and wide, with polished floors and gold trim. Paintings of ancestors lined the walls. The cold air smelled like metal and old books. Tiero entered first. He wore a formal white robe, the same kind he wore at the first ceremony. His eyes were tired. Behind him came his mother and father. Their faces were sharp and serious. Lena stood tall, Mira in her arms. Bran stood beside her. The Doran father spoke first. "We did not expect a second ceremony, nor did we expect the attention it received," Bran answered smoothly. "Respect is not given by power, it's earned by action." The Doran mother narrowed her eyes. "You used your name to create a scene." "No," Lena said firmly. "He used his kindness to correct a mistake." Taryn looked at her. "You could have come to me first." "I did," she replied. "I waited. I stayed quiet. But when I stepped forward at the first blessing, no one moved to let me speak. Not even you." He lowered his eyes. Mira stirred gently in Lena's arms, and she held her close. "We're not here to fight," Lena said. "I'm not asking to erase your place in her life. But I will never let anyone erase mine again." The room fell silent. Then Bran said, "We don't need your permission. But we wanted to offer peace. If you choose to respect both sides of Myra's family, you're welcome. But if you try to silence her mother again, I will make sure the entire galaxy knows." The message was clear. Taron looked at Mira. "I made mistakes," he said quietly, "but I do want to be part of her life." Lena nodded once. "Then be better." The Doran father stood. "This meeting is done." Bran smiled faintly. "Yes, it is." The next morning, the Dorans made their move. Across the main news channels of New Terra 3, a public statement was released. It came from the Doran family's private office and was read by a silver-haired spokesperson in a formal tone. "The House of Doran regrets the confusion caused by recent public ceremonies regarding our grandchild, Mira Doran. The original light blessing held by the family remains the official and recognized event. We appreciate the support of the community and remind all citizens that family matters are private and should be respected as such." The message was short, cold, and sharp. It didn't mention Lena's name at all. It didn't thank Bran, and it didn't recognize the second ceremony as real. Lena watched the broadcast from her small living room, Mira resting in her arms. Bran sat beside her, calm as ever. "They're trying to ignore it," she said, voice low. "They're trying to bury it." Bran replied, "But it's too late." He was right. By midday, the response from the public was louder than anything the Dorans expected. Comments flooded social media. She's the mother. Why is she being left out again? That second ceremony was the real one. Bran Keller did more for that child than her own father. We stand with Lena. News. Networks replayed Lena's blessing speech over and over. Schools discussed the event as part of modern cultural values. Even artists and musicians created songs and short films inspired by the moment Mira was lifted toward the dome's glowing sky. The second ceremony had turned into something much bigger than a family matter. It had become a symbol, a reminder that money and status were not the only things that mattered in society. Reminder that love and truth mattered more. That afternoon, Bran invited Lena to his sky office. It floated high above the city, attached to the upper spine of the transportation hub. The glass walls gave a full view of the dome, the clouds, and even the stars above the atmosphere shield. Lena stood at the window, holding a warm drink. There. Still trying to control the story, she said. Bran nodded. They've always controlled stories, but not this one. Lena looked at him. Why did you get involved in the first place, really? Bran thought for a moment. Because I grew up watching my mother struggle. Lena turned to him. She raised me alone. My father left before I was born, Bran continued. She worked at space docks, fixing transport ships. She was quiet, gentle. People ignored her. But she never gave up. Lena listened carefully. One day, he said, a man tried to take credit for her work. She didn't fight. She just walked away. But I remember thinking, someone should have stood up for her. He looked into Lena's eyes. So when I saw you at that first ceremony, standing alone, being pushed aside, I remembered her. Lena smiled softly. She must be proud of you. I hope so, Bran said. She passed away 10 years ago. They stood in silence for a moment, looking out over the city. Then Bran turned to Lena. The Dorans are strong, but they're not invincible. If they push harder, I'll protect you, and Mira. I believe you, Lena said. But then she added, I don't want to fight. I don't want a battle in the courts or in the news. I just want peace. Bran nodded slowly. Then we show them something stronger than anger. What's that? Dignity. The next day, Lena made a decision. She recorded a message. No fancy studio, no press team. Just her, sitting on her small couch with Mira beside her. She looked directly into the camera and spoke calmly. I am Lena, the mother of Myra Doran. I have no wish to argue. I have no wish to damage anyone's name. All I want is for my daughter to grow up, knowing that her mother stood beside her, not in shadows, not in silence, but with love and honesty. To the Dorans I do not wish you harm. I only wish for fairness. My daughter is not a tool. She is not a symbol. She is a child, and she deserves both sides of her family to show her respect. And to all those who sent kind words, thank you. I stood tall because of your support. This is not a war. This is just the truth. She posted the message, and within hours, it reached every screen in the city. The Dorans tried to stay silent again, but silence no longer worked. People started organizing peaceful gatherings in support of Lena, in marketplaces, at schools, and even at transport stations. People wore small star-shaped pins, the same design Bran had given Lena before the second ceremony. Even some workers in Doran-owned businesses wore the pins quietly, showing where their hearts stood. For the first time, the Dorans felt pressure they couldn't control. In a private meeting, the Doran father slammed his hand on the table. She's one woman. How is she doing this? Taryn, quiet as always, replied, because she's not alone anymore. Back in her apartment, Lena sat on the floor beside Mira, watching her play with colored blocks. Bran entered quietly, holding a small package. More letters, he said. From across the colonies, people sending blessings. Even one from an old teacher on Mars. Lena opened the box. Inside were drawings, small gifts, and paper stars with handwritten messages. You're voice gave me strength. I'm proud to stand with you. You reminded us what being a parent truly means." Lena felt tears in her eyes, not from pain, but from warmth. Bran sat beside her. "You've started something that can't be undone." She smiled. "I didn't mean to, but you did," he said. "You reminded people that even one voice can change everything." Outside, the stars of New Terra 3 began to shine above the dome once again. Children pointed to the sky and told the story of Mira and the mother who stood for her. And in homes, hearts, and quiet corners across the system, people began to believe that truth spoken with love could outshine even the coldest power. The days that followed felt like a new dawn for Lena and Mira. The second light blessing had changed more than just a ceremony. It had shifted hearts and minds. News stations now spoke of Lena as a symbol of courage. People from all walks of life shared stories about standing up for what is right, even when it seems impossible. And while the Dorans kept their silence in public, behind closed doors, the family was learning to accept the truth. One afternoon, Bran invited Lena and Mira to his sky office again. This time, the atmosphere was warm and bright. Bran greeted them with a gentle smile. "I have something to show you," he said. He led them to a large window overlooking the city. Below, a new community center was being built. Its walls were painted in soft colors with stars and light patterns decorating every corner. "This is for Mira," Bran explained, "and for every child who deserves to feel seen and loved." Lena looked at the building, then back at Bran. "It's beautiful," she said softly. Bran nodded. "It will open soon. A place where families can come together, where no one will be pushed away." Mira gurgled happily, reaching for Lena's face. As the weeks passed, Lena's life began to change in small but important ways. The quiet apartment was still home, but invitations came in. Schools asked her to speak about courage, community. Groups invited her to share her story. Bran stayed by her side, not as a protector only, but as a friend who believed in her strength. Together, they helped organize events, celebrations, and learning sessions. The city began to feel less like a place ruled by old rules, and more like a home for everyone. One evening, Lena received a message from Taron. It was simple. "Can we meet?" For Mira's sake. Lena thought carefully. After all that had happened, she knew healing would take time, but she also knew the importance of opening doors. She agreed. They met at a quiet park near the dome. Taron arrived, holding a small wrapped gift. He looked nervous but sincere. Lena held Mira in her arms as he stepped forward. "I wanted to give this to her," he said, offering the gift. Inside was a small wooden star, hand-carved. "For Mira," Taron said. "So she always remembers light comes from many places." Lena smiled softly. "Thank you." Taron looked at her. "I'm sorry for how things went before. I wasn't brave enough." She nodded. "We both learn as we go." They talked quietly for a while about Mira, about the future, about hope. The city's night sky glowed softly through the dome. Lena looked up, holding Mira close. She thought about the journey from being pushed away to standing tall, from silence to being heard. She thought about Bran's kindness, Taron's change, and the many voices that had come together. Most of all, she thought about her daughter. "Mira," she whispered, "your light will shine bright." Years later, Mira grew up knowing her mother's courage. She learned the story of the second light blessing and how many people came to stand with her family. She visited the community center often, a place where children laughed and learned about stars, kindness, and courage. And when she looked at the carved wooden star her father gave her, she smiled, because she knew that love, true love, comes from many places, and that her family was stronger for it.